couple months ago, I had an opportunity to go to Coffee Fest Chicago. This is an industry trade show devoted towards the specialty coffee industry. While I was visiting booths, I came across a product that I really thought was interesting, I hadn't seen before, and it's called the Flask. It's made by Planetary Design. It's branded under Ethoz, and it is a brewing device that's kind of a combination of a AeroPress, a French press, and it has kind of a Chemex feel to it with the decanter type system that they use. And I thought it was really interesting, and the manufacturers offered to send me a sample to try out. So I received this free for me to try. No obligation to do a video, no obligation to say anything good or bad about this product. And I experienced using this in my previous video, which is the Brouhaha 2022 with my family, and I won the competition. It's a brewing competition within our family that we enjoy doing when we go away every year on a little vacation. And so I won, and the Flask did me well. So let's take a look at this when we unbox it. It comes in a nice carrying case. This is really cool because I just kept it in its box and took it on my trip with me. It was easy to transport, and it kept the flask safe. Opening it up, you'll see that everything is held in place. The Flask is really a brewing device that has multiple components. We'll talk about that in a second. There is a measuring cup and a stir stick combination that's included, along with some paper filters and instructions. Taking this out and starting to look at each of the components, let's start with the Flask itself. The Flask is really made up of several different items. The first is made of glass. This is a high temperature glass that seems to be high quality, and it has a nice good quality leather wrap around it, very sturdy feeling, and the leather wrap is really nice to be able to handle and grip with no fear of having the glass slip out of my hand. And it protects me from any sort of hot temperatures from the coffee or hot water or tea, whatever it is you're going to be using this to brew with. Then the brewing device itself is an insert, and it's all part of the same system. This insert is made of a BPA plastic. It's a food-safe plastic that has a plunger component to it, like a French press, as well as a filtering system similar to a French press, but it has a much higher quality, finer mesh. Taking a closer look at this mesh, you'll see that one side has kind of a larger honeycomb grid on it, and the other side has a super fine micro mesh that's in this system here. And you could use it without a paper filter and probably have a pretty clean cup with maybe a little bit of silt. It's probably the finest brewing filter that I've seen on a few of the French presses that I've actually tried out myself. The paper filters seem to be very similar to an AeroPress, so I'm thinking that you may be able to use AeroPress filters with this device as well. And then all of this gets locked in together. As you can see, you insert the AeroPress filter on top of this base, get it in position, and then just snap it shut. And then you are ready to wet the filter and then begin to brew your coffee. The base that locks on and holds the filter system, that base has a one-way valve built into it so that while the coffee is brewing, none of it is going into the decanter. It's pretty cool. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about how I'm going to brew this coffee so you guys can understand and can try it if you want. In my competition, in my video, I use a very high ratio of coffee to water. It's about 350 grams of water and 25 grams of coffee. In my competition, the blind tasting revealed that my brew was a very balanced, very refined cup of coffee, and I did use that filter, the paper filter, and it was an extremely clean cup of coffee. The result was great. And of course, as I'd mentioned, I was voted the winner of the brewing compared to a Kalita. Actually, both of the competitors used a Kalita, but the Flask was the champ in all of that. So I'm pouring 350 grams of water and 25 grams of coffee. Takes about 30 seconds to pour it all in. And then I'm stirring it up. And this is according to the instructions. And then I set the plunger and I let it sit. I'm going to let it sit for 3 more minutes. So I'm going to get about a 3.5 minute brew. I'm actually going to start pressing before the 3.5 minute mark. I'm probably going to start pressing a little after 3 minutes. It takes about 30 seconds to press all the coffee out, and I don't want to go too far too long and get any sort of an over extraction on this. It's definitely a lot of pressure when you're pushing down on the plunger. I'm using 2 hands and I'm giving a nice constant push, and there is kind of a little bit of a squeaky hum as you're pushing the plunger down, and I'm trying to maintain that same pitch, which would be equal pressure, as far down as I can. And then the last little bit I have to change my hand position to be able to plunge this coffee all the way out, to press all of the water, all the coffee out of the brewing device and into the decanter. Okay, and it's that simple. So next we're ready to go ahead and pour the coffee into the mug. Again, I like a big mug of coffee. I brewed 350 grams of coffee. You can brew up to 487 grams. I think that's what 17 ounces equates to. So you could have enough for 2 people to share, and I'm brewing kind of a lighter, less of a full brew based on a single serve portion. Okay, the end result is a delicious cup of coffee. I mentioned before that every time that I've used the flask, the coffee seems to taste a little juicier. I don't think there's really anything to that, but it just so happens that the coffee that I brewed here was a decaf coffee, and it definitely was roasted kind of medium light, and there is a little bit of a fruit note in the coffee, and brewing it with this flask definitely highlighted that. There's a juicy element to the coffee that I really enjoyed. So the flask to me is a win-win. I really like the product. If you're interested in a French press style, AeroPress style brewing device that kind of is an all-in-one with the decanter system built into it, you might want to consider the flask. It's not a brewing device that's going to brew a lot of coffee at one time. Again, your max is going to be 17 fluid ounces of coffee, but that's enough for 2 people. So I think that might be a good fit if you're interested in that. The cleanup of the flask is easy. You are just turning the base of the brewing device. It unlocks that base, and then I'm showing you here, I put it on a plate so you can see exactly what happens. By simply depressing the plunger, it pushes those grounds all the way through, and then you can pull the AeroPress type filter off, and there's very little grounds that are pushed into the mesh. It rinses off easy with super hot water. That's what I usually do for my cleanup. I clean up right away. Super hot water, rinse that off. Rinse out the tube on the inside. If you want to use a little bit of soap, put that in there, and then just hold your hand over both ends of the brewing device and shake it. Then you can just clean that out really easy with a little bit of soap. The decanter itself is really easy. You can add a little bit of soap in there, hot water, and that cleans out as well. So it's easy to use, easy to clean up, and it gives a great result, and I would encourage you to check it out. I've got an affiliate link that I will have in the description, so if you want to check it out on Amazon, I get a little bit of a commission on that. It helps the channel out. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It's also sold elsewhere online. You can also go directly to Planetary Design, check out their website, and you can see it there as well. All right, so I'm curious if any of you have seen the flask before, or if you own the flask. I'd love to hear your experiences with it. How would you best describe this product? Would you describe it more on the order of a French press or an AeroPress? I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that. If there were some things in this video you saw you had questions about how the flask worked, or any of the features that I talked about, go ahead and share those in the comments as well. And I'm just curious, what is your favorite brewing device? Share that with me. I would be interested in hearing that too. Well, I really enjoyed using the flask. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you like what you've seen, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. That really helps me out, and I appreciate you watching this video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great week brewing and roasting. We'll see you next time. Take care.